Okay, time value of money. What is the time value of money? Okay, let's do an example. Michael, let's say that I tried to make a deal with you where you give me $1,000 today, and in 4 years, I will give you the $1,000 back. Okay? You give me $1,000 today, and in 4 years, I will give you $1,000 back. Okay? Now, and you knew I was going to pay you back. There wasn't any chance that I wouldn't show up in 4 years. Yeah. Okay? You would not want to make that deal, no. Would you? Okay. Because we intuitively know that $1,000 today is worth more than $1,000 in 4 years. We intuitively know this, right? Okay? We know this because, now you aren't all as old as I am, but can you think of some things that when you were little kids were a lot cheaper?
Gas.
Gasoline. Okay? What about movie tickets?
Yeah.
Okay? What's it cost to go to a movie now?
$10. 10, 11
$10.50. I can remember when I was a kid and movies went from $3.50 to $4. My dad was like, "That's it, no more movies. We're not paying $4, right?" Well, now $4 would be the matinee price, right? Okay. On an extreme example, let's say I could go back in time and find my mother, and I could go back. I went back in time to 1940 when she was a little girl. Okay. And let's say I found my mom in 1940 and I gave her 25 cents. I gave her a quarter. She would be pretty excited about that, would she not? She could go do a lot of things with 25 cents. She could go to a movie. She could probably buy some candy and take it to the movie. She could probably buy a couple Superman comic books. She could go on a pony ride or whatever they did in the 40s, okay? But she could do a lot with that 25 cents, and thus she would be pretty excited, right? Now, if I got one of my teenagers today in 2014 and I gave him a quarter, how excited do you think my teenager would be?
He'd probably throw it back at you.
Flip it back in my face, right? No, he'd probably take it, but it's not that big a deal, right? Because a quarter in 2014 is not worth what it was way back in 1940, 1941, right? Okay? We intuitively know this, okay? Now let's go back to our example, Michael, of the $1,000, okay? What if I said, you give me $1,000 today, Michael, and I will give you in 4 years, I will give you $1,001. There's a good deal. You're getting $1 more than what you did. Now, you're still not excited about that, right?
No.
Because you intuitively know that still is not a good deal for you, correct? Now, there is an amount. There is an amount out there, and it depends on what you would require. But there is an amount that if you gave me $1,000 today and I gave a higher amount to you in the future, there is a higher amount that you might go for it. Okay? For example, I don't know what it is, but maybe you give me $1,000 today and I give you $1,400 in 4 years. You might go for that, right? Because isn't that basically what you do when you invest?
Yeah.
Okay? So you know that there is some way to deal with that, okay? But $1 today is worth more than $1 in 4 years. That's the time value of money. Does that make sense? Now, going back to this $1,000 example, you intuitively know that money has a time value of money because if nothing else, I could take that $1,000 and what could I do with it?
Invest it.
I could put it into a savings account, right? Couldn't I put it into a savings account and earn some interest on it? Even a really, really safe savings account, okay? Let's think through this, okay? Again, I don't have any PowerPoints on this presentation, so we're going to do some writing on the Elmo, okay? And as always, if I start to write and if you can't see it, let me know. Okay? This is also a good lecture to have your calculators out. Okay, so get out your calculator. This is one of the few lectures that if you don't have a calculator, you can go ahead and have your phone. I don't care what calculator you use. Okay? Okay. Let's say, let me draw a timeline here. Let's draw a timeline. This is timeline 0. That means that's today. This is 1 year from now. This is 2 years from now. This is 3 years from now. And this is 4 years from now. Are you with me? Okay. Now, let's say, Michael, that you gave me that $1,000 today. Okay. So that is $1,000 today. Okay? Now, we need to think of what an annual interest rate might be. Let's say I decide to put it into a savings account. Okay? Now, I know savings accounts do not pay the following rate, but I want to have easier math. Okay? So let's say that I have a savings account that will pay me 3% annually. Okay? Be sweet, okay? But let's say the interest rate is 3%, okay? Now, I put $1,000 into that savings account today. It pays 3% annually. How much will that $1,000 have grown to 1 year from now?
$1,030.
$1,030, that is correct. Now, how did you get that? Well, it's pretty easy, but let me go ahead and say it. You could do this. You could take 1,000 times 0.03, and that equals $30 interest earned, and then add it to your principal and get 1030, right? You could do that. Or what I usually do is just shortcut it and take 1,000 times 1.03 to see what the amount would have grown to for 3%. And that equals 1030. Is that correct? You with me? Okay. Now, how much, this $1,000 grew to 1,030 in 1 year. What do you think it will have grown to in 2 years? Now, we are now earning interest on the interest previously earned, aren't we? So what are we going to do? We're going to take that 1,030 once again times 1.03, aren't we? And let me bang that out on my calculator. You do that too to maybe catch if I make a mistake. Did you get 1060.90?
Yep.
Okay, so that is worth 1060.90 right here. And we took that 1030 times 1.03 to get that, correct? I'm going to take that off now. Okay, well, what will that have grown to at this point? What'd you get?
1092.73.
What'd you get again, Henry?
1092.73.
Okay, you had to round a little bit. That's fine, round to the penny. 1092.73. Is that right, Henry? Okay. And let's take that one more time to see what it would equal in 4 years.
1125.51.
Okay. 1125.51. Are you with me? Everybody know what we just did there? Okay. Now the other way that you could have got this number and just hopped over there is taken 1,000 times 1.03 to the fourth, right? Isn't that what we did? Okay. But anyways, let's just concentrate on this right here. 1,000 in 4 years grew to 1125.51 at an annual interest rate of 3%. Cool? Let's come off that. Let's say that a few different ways. If Michael gives me $1,000 today, and in 4 years I give him $1,125.51, he has earned what percent annually on his money? 3%. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another way to say it. if I want to be able to withdraw $1,125.51 from my savings account in 4 years, and it pays 3% annually, how much do I need to deposit today? What's the answer to that question? $1,000. Okay? Here's another way to say it. If I put $1,000 in my savings account today and it earns 3% annually, how much can I withdraw in 4 years? $1,125.51. Correct? Okay. Here's another way of saying it. A certain set of tires, a certain set of 4 tires, costs $1,000 today. If the rate of inflation on those tires is 3% annually, how much will they cost in 4 years? $1,125.51. Are you with me? Cool? Okay. All right. Now, we figured out how to do that, and it wasn't too difficult, right? Now, I want to show you a different way, okay? And before I do that, I want to let you know that, yes, I do understand that there are financial calculators out there and computer programs and stuff where you can just literally enter 3 variables and push the variable that you don't know and it will spit it out at you. Okay, I know that. Okay, but I'm going to teach you a little bit how to do it the old school way, because, and you won't always use the old school way, but it's kind of like when they, remember when they taught you how to do multiplication on paper? You know, carry this. You don't, you know you're not going to do that your whole life, but there's something about doing it that basic way that kind of reinforces it. Okay? So I'm going to kind of have you do that. Okay? So don't just think I have a financial calculator. I don't need to know any of this. Okay? All right. Here's the way I'm going to do this. I'm going to define some variables in this example. Okay? Let's say and I don't even care about these numbers right now, so I'm going to just cover them up. Okay? I don't care about those right now, so let's just cover those up. The way we're going to solve this is, let me write this down and then I'm going to explain it. We're going to use the variable P, and that stands for present value. P stands for present value. Okay? P stands for present value. And in this example, what does our present value equal? $1,000. Okay? Now, let's say that we don't know that number. I mean, we do know that number, but let's say we don't know it, okay? Well, I'm going to use that variable, I'm going to use the variable F to stand for future value. Are you with me? And let's act like we don't know what it is. Cool? Okay, I equals our annual percentage rate. And in this case, what does I equal? 3%. 3%. Okay? And we're going to use a variable called N, and that's going to equal the number of periods. Now, notice I did not say the number of years, because it's not always years. Sometimes it'll be months or quarters or whatever. But N equals the number of periods. But in this example, what does N equal?
4 years.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. So in this example, P equals 1,000. We're acting like we don't know F. I equals 3%. N equals 4. Here's the way that you could solve for this example. Okay? Let me write this down. Well, once again, you start off with P equals F. And then we're going to, let me just write this down and then I'll explain it. That looks very confusing mathematically. This looks very confusing mathematically. P equals F times parentheses, P over F, comma I, comma N. It's not that complicated. Here's what this is saying. Our present value equals $1,000. We know that, right? We're acting like we don't know what F is. So we're just going to have that be called F. Now, what is this P slash F I N? Well, what that goes to is this. Look in the back of your book, the very back of your book, and look for page B10, okay? B10. If you have your book, get that out, okay? Now, did anybody here not bring their book? Okay. All right. Here's a few of these tables if you didn't bring your book. You guys can distribute those as needed. But get your book out and look at this table. You folks at home always be doing what we're doing. You look in the back of your book and look for table B1 on page B10. Are you with me? Yeah, I got a couple more. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you got a Xerox one, you probably got looks different. Same thing. Okay, go ahead and write in your book. I know you're not supposed to write in your book, but on table B1, present value of 1, go ahead and write P slash F right there. Are you with me? This is the present value of future amount table. And these are different interest rates, okay? And these are different numbers of periods, okay? Are you with me? So, we're going to come back to that table in just a second. But what this notation is telling us, folks, is that we are going to go, and I can't find my red pen, so I'm switching colors here, okay? We are going to go to the P of F table. What is the I in our example? Yeah, but what is it? What's the number? 3%. And what is the N in our example? 4. All this is saying between my fingers is go to the P of F table and look in column 3% and row 4 and put that value in the parentheses. That's all that's saying. Okay? So, let's go ahead and do that. What is that value? Did anybody find it?
8885.
Okay, and let me do a big time zoom on that. Okay? This is the P of F table, table B1, and this is P of F 3% 4. So I go to the column 3%, and I go to row 4, and I got what? 0.8885. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So all I'm going to do, and going back to this, let me zoom back out. $1,000 equals F times, what is it? 0.8885?
Yep.
Is that correct? So how do I solve for F? I don't take that times that. I take $1,000 divided by it, right?
It's a penny off. Or different than what we got earlier.
What's it come to 50?
So what's the answer? I got F equal to 1125.49. Okay? Now, what did we figure it out?
5-1.
I don't care about that 2 cents difference. Okay? I don't care about that. That's fine. But do you see how we did that using the table? You see how we did it? Okay? Now, one important thing. You can come off the camera or come off the Elmo. One important thing you always want to do after you solve for these folks is you want to ask yourself, is this a reasonable answer? Is it a reasonable answer that I would put $1,000, you can go back to the thing. Is it a reasonable answer that I could put $1,000 in my savings account, it earns 3%, and it's grown to $1125.49? That's somewhat reasonable. Here are some unreasonable answers. For example, sometimes people will make a mistake and they'll multiply 1,000 times 0.885. Well, does it make any sense that you'd put $1,000 in the bank and in 4 years it's grown to $888.50? That doesn't make sense, does it? Or every now and then I'll get somebody that says the future value of this is 88 cents. So I put $1,000 in the bank and it grew to 88 cents. You see what I'm saying? Or they'll go the other way. The future value is $125,697. Really? I put $1,000 in the bank. It pays 3% annually. In 4 years, it's grown to $125,000 or some odd dollars, right? That's not reasonable, is it? So this is reasonable. Is that correct? Now, what I want you to do is you don't even have to play the music. But let me ask you this. Well, first of all, let me ask, is there any questions here? Any questions? Okay, let me ask you this. How much will this $1,000 have grown to in 20 years if the interest rate is 3%? Okay? You don't need to roll the music, but just go ahead and you folks at home, you do this as well with that table. How much will that $1,000 have grown to in 20 years? Don't feel like you need to shout out the answer. Let everybody solve for it. Okay? How much will that $1,000 have grown to in 20 years at an annual interest rate of 3%? Cool? Well, anybody get it?
Yeah.
Check with your neighbor to see if you got it right. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's go back to this. P equals F times P slash FIN. Present value is $1,000, correct? We're trying to figure out our future value. But now we're going to go to the P of F table. What's I?
3%.
Still 3%. What's N?
20.
20. Now we're going to go to our P of F table, look in the 3% column, look on the row 20, and we're going to put that value in there. Okay? So if I go to my table, my P of F table, don't worry about any of those other tables except table B1, P of F, present value of 1. 3%, 20. Did you get 0.5537? Did anybody find that value? So that's 0.5537 times F equals 1,000. So F equals did you get 1806 and 3 cents?
Yep.
Okay. If you're off by a penny or two, I don't care. First of all, is that a reasonable answer?
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable. Okay? I think it's a reasonable answer. Cool? Any questions on that? So I want you to learn how to use these tables. You with me? Okay? Let me give you a different problem now. Okay? Question. How much do I need to deposit today if I want to withdraw $10,000 in 7 years? Interest rate, let's say the interest rate is 2%. How much do I need to deposit today if I want to withdraw $10,000 in 7 years? The interest rate is 2%. Okay, you don't need to roll the music, but go ahead and solve that if you can. All right. How much do I need to deposit today if I want to withdraw $10,000 in 7 years? The interest rate is 2%. confer with your neighbor to see if you got the same answer. Okay. All right, P equals F, P slash F, I, N. This time we don't know the present value, do we? So that's the unknown. Do we know the future value? What is it? Now we're going to go to our P of F table. What's our interest rate?
2%.
And what's in our number of periods?
7.
We're going to go to the P of F table, column of 2%, row 7, and we're going to find that value. P of F, 2%, row 7. Did you get 0.8706? Did anybody else get that? Okay. So that is 0.8706 times 10,000 equals P. So I can do that one without a calculator. That equals 8706. Is that a reasonable answer? Is that a reasonable answer? Mm-hmm. I think it's reasonable, don't you? What if this was $43,892.12? Was that reasonable? Okay. What if this were 67 cents? Is that reasonable? What if this were $190? Is that reasonable? Okay, I think you get the idea. Always ask yourself, is this a reasonable number? Cool? Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on that, folks?